Hey and welcome. Hey and welcome, you guys. Thank you for clicking on this video. And we are back, y'all. It's been a minute, but we are back with Yikes, True Crime, and Docs. And what better one to get back to it with than this one right here, okay? I know it's been a minute, so pardon the delay. But before we get into the whole thing, because baby, it's a lot, all right? Please make sure you are liking the video, subscribe if you haven't already, tell a friend to tell a friend. Please comment down in the comment section sharing your thoughts. And speaking of sharing, share this video. We share your videos because sharing is indeed caring. And if you like to support the channel, support your girl, drop a little something in the tip jar. The Cash App and Venmo are there for just that. Baby, now let's get into it. Netflix dropped Reality Check Inside America's Next Top Model on, I believe, February 17th. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not going to go check the date. And we're going to talk about it, y'all. I got some notes. I got some things. And I'm going to try not to make this thing too long. But, sometimes you know how this whole thing can go. All right, your girl going to be over here for a minute while we talk about this thing. Now, what I will say about this docuseries is it is giving a scheme that Todd had set up. Now, you get that in the comments and let me know if you watched, if you agree, just something about it wasn't sitting right with me. We'll get into it a little more as we talk about it. We're going to go episode for episode. So the first episode is only 3 episodes, y'all. So just bear with me. Was called On Top. And this is where we're basically going to get the history of America's Next Top Model. Now, we open with that I was rooting for you. And I said, Tyra, not when your mama yelled at you like this. It was because she loved you. I was blinking like, girl, you can tell you a woman with no kids and no growth because everything that mama did and everything that mama said wasn't quite right and wasn't quite love. We're not going to get into that. That's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. Let me bring her raggedy behind on up here because she was there and I got this picture of her because that's what I feel. So we have a bunch of different people that they are talking, they're speaking their speech about the show and the process and just all the things behind it before we get into how we got here. And then we got Miss Tyra. Like I said, honestly, I was surprised she participated, knowing the things that people have been saying about her and this show over the last few years, which is how we got here. So I was surprised she decided to come and participate, but, it's giving a little bit of narcissism because sometimes people, they think they know best, They say and they do these things and they really honestly think they know best. And that's what Tyra was giving. It was giving me a little pompous, a little, good old narcissism, if you will. So we can all remember where we were back in 2020 and maybe we're all in the house. We were all in the house. And that's when a bunch of folks started binging America's Next Top Model. And Tyra says they binged it with joy and then discuss for the show and for Tyra. And honestly, as they should. Did you guys binge back in 2020? I didn't, and I am tempted to go back and watch, but I honestly don't know if I can stomach some of the things. I went through it the first time when it was out, and I was very grown, okay? I must say, I was very grown. The show came out in 2003, and my first child was born in 2002. So your girl was, early 20s, grown when I watched it. Enjoyed it. I think I won't say I saw things from a different lens because of the time, because that's what they're going to paint for us in here. I saw it with a different lens because that's what they wanted us to see. We'll get into that also a little bit later. So, we rewind a little bit to the early 2000s where we have the thin, the blonde, and the white that were in. And then there was Miss Tyra. And she's got the typical Black girl issues when it comes to modeling. The nose is too big, the lips are too full. So eventually she became a model, turned actress, turned cover girl, and she worked her way through it, right? And baby, it's just crazy because we're still doing Black first in 2026 and it just makes me shake my head. So she decided with everything that she had been through that she wanted to create a show that represented all types of beauty, okay? Different colors, different sizes. And I said, or did she? Now, This was the intention when she started. Again, we may talk about this a little bit later. We already have 5 minutes, y'all. That was her intention when she first started out. So it's a wonderful concept. It's a wonderful idea. Could have been executed a little bit better. Part of me wants to say yes, but I can kind of see some of the barriers that she faced. But as we got down the line, in my opinion, some of that intention went out the window. So Tyra meets with Ken Mock, and she kind of wanted to do like an American Idol meets the real world, but set obviously in the modeling industry. And after all, he did do Making the Band. So if you saw Making the Band, you know Ken Mock's work. So we begin to put together a team. We have Jay Alexander, Miss J, if you nasty for the walk, honey, okay? Walk, 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 okay? And Jay Manuel as our makeup artist turned photo shoot director. So Tyra starts heading to pitch meetings, and she's getting no after no after no. You know how those things go. And she finally arrives lastly at UPN, and she gets the green light for the show days later. Now, baby, this is where we start to get into, because you know your girl's not big on slides, but I want us to give just, a little representation for some of these ladies. Go ahead and subscribe to their YouTube channels if they have one. Follow them on IG and just support, because with everything that we learning, we can use it. So season 1, we got Shannon. And Shannon was a Christian, and she's, given the traditional beauty because Tyra says, we needed to meet people where they were. So that's where we got Shannon. She was on Cycle 1. We also got our beautiful black girl, Ebony from Harlem, baby. Okay, she's a beautiful chocolate girl. And the network pushed back. I think there was a Latina girl. Child, what's the man's name? Les. Y'all know Les. That pushed back from the Latina. Tyra, went to bat. And then eventually they had to find somebody else. Because this was Tyra's vision. This is what she wanted to create. Like I said, we wanted the diversity. And according to the network, one black girl diversity made, but that wasn't enough for Miss Banks. So enter a Latina, Giselle. Okay, so Giselle was on season 1. Now, season 1, they didn't have a lot of experience or a lot of budget. So, they stayed in a hotel. They shot in a hotel. It's giving 9 girls picked to live in a loft, If you know, you know. And the show was supposed to set them up to actually be models. Like the prize was, you're going to get this CoverGirl contract and you're going to be booked at this modeling agency. So you would think that would be a good thing. You would think that would be a good thing. And we're also, getting behind the scenes footage whole time. We get to see the shady dynamic of Miss J and Mr. J. And we get into some things that were a little problematic on the show. Now, Miss Ebony over here was, she was part of the community, honey, okay? And there was one, and it kind of got a little problematic because this is where we start to see that they're pushing storylines. So Shannon's push was, she was this virgin and she was a Christian. We heavily pushed the gay or lesbian thing. With Ebony, there was another black girl there that, she was a Christian. And, she didn't really feel too comfortable with the situation when Ebony brought her girlfriend to visit. And I personally find it ironic because I can't remember the girl's name. I obviously did watch the season or cycle, whatever you want to call it. But the black girl, she was a fair-skinned black girl. And she was the one that they was calling old and big because, everybody was fat to them. And this is where we kind of get the introduction of Janice Dickinson, baby. How I could not stand Janice Dickinson, who was like the first supermodel, according to her. And she just kept it a little too real. There's a difference between constructive criticism and what Janice gave. And a lot of what Janice gave, baby, was just harsh, mean, and rude. So at the end of cycle 1, Adrian beats out Shannon as the first top model winner. And Shannon's devastated. But, Tyra, she says Tyra gave her a call, phone call, flowers, letter, whatever it was, told her to come to New York. And she did end up getting signed to IMG, which, baby, learning about this show and how most of them didn't go on to do anything in the modeling industry, was kind of, if that's what you set out to, it could be devastating. So I was like, I mean, kudos to her. Clap it up. And good for you, girl. Because a lot of people didn't get that. Now, I know some people say that's a blessing and a curse because, back in the day, and probably still now, because not much has really changed, even post Me Too movement, but that they were transporting the girls. Okay. Some of it was a front. So we also have that to contend with. Now, Giselle, let's see, which way did I have Giselle? Nope, I had Giselle the other way. Sorry, I'm gonna try not to do that. I'm gonna try to, make it look a little more smooth and a little more effortless. She was excited and thought that this would like catapult her career. But once it aired, they kind of, didn't paint her in such a favorable light. The producers were kind of pinning the girls against each other. Um, she also was given a little problematic from what we saw. So there was that. And Janice really impacted her by calling her ass wide, baby. You can't, young girls, you can't do all that. So the show has rave reviews, even from those in the industry, and the ratings are rating, honey. Okay. So Miss Ebony thought, the first episode was great. And then, we got the ordeal when she had maybe, you see how much hair I got, baby? She didn't have that much, okay? She had a little patch of hair. And they want to shave it off to make her totally bald, which I thought she was totally beautiful. There's nothing more beautiful than a woman, period, but a chocolate woman with that real low cut and, that striking face is giving things, okay? Um, and they ended up, giving her bald spots, but the way that they made fun of it, when you couldn't get a black woman to come in here and do her hair, or even hell, a barber, because we just shaving hair. It seems like they didn't have the right utensils, they didn't know how to use it. They laughing and joking about the texture of her hair. Should I put my name in it? Baby, it was a lot. I was trying not to make this long, but y'all, it's gonna be what it be. So Tyra calls, right? And she's thinking that Tyra's calling to support. And Tyra basically calls to tell her she's coming across ashy. You don't tell a black woman she's ashy. Tyra was giving quite problematic. And we see a scene of Tyra saying that her pictures need to be retouched the most. And what I was getting from it, and I know it's day and the time, and y'all can say what you want to say. These are my opinions. So if you want to challenge me, just please be polite in the comments. It's giving colorism. She's a chocolate girl. Tyra's a little more fair skinned. It was a lot. So then the girl, starts to be lathering herself in all this grease so she could be moisturized. Okay, so she could be shining and glowing in the pictures. And the girls are complaining about the grease. They are calling this woman aggressive. Um, Kimora calls her harsh. Kimora Lee Simmons or Kimora Lee, whatever the last name is at this point. I don't know how many husbands she's on, baby. Okay. You lose respect for her too, but her and Tyra are friends. She was on the show. They had guest judges and everything, but it's a lot. And as a dark chocolate girl myself, here I am starting to get triggered. Okay. Um, it's just a lot. I don't want to go off on it too much of a tangent because we have a lot of road to cover, but I'll just say it wasn't right. It's given colorism and other things, and we just start to see all different kinds of themes and things throughout this docuseries, and it was a lot. And ultimately, she's heartbroken when she's eliminated. Then she goes into the real world, and black girls are feeling discouraged because if she got the rough skin and my skin is like yours, then what am I going to be? And Giselle, she couldn't get work because Tyra was saying that she lacked confidence. So Ebony is questioning at the end of the day, is this really a modeling show? No. This is when, maybe not this particular season, but definitely see throughout the course of the show where the whole modeling thing takes a backseat and it's more primarily a reality show or producing a show. We want shock value. We want storylines. And to me, with the modeling thing, we didn't need that much. At some point, they even wanted to amp it up and they having them do all these wild photo shoots. And to me, that wasn't necessary. That wasn't what I tuned in for. I tuned in for, the modeling, but it's like, you didn't have to put these women in jeopardy and all the things that you did. I get how they say the industry was, because I don't want to say I get the industry, okay? Because your girl's never been in the industry, a little too short for all of that, okay? It wasn't this thick back then, but a little too short for all of that. did a little modeling at my dance school, in junior high school, did some fashion shows. Even baby, my last fashion show was in college. So it's been some time, but I get what we're saying. But if you set out on an agenda, I'll get back to it. I'll get back to it because I'm getting off on a tangent. I'm getting off on a tangent. So season one is a success. Now for season two, baby, give me 1 second, y'all. Okay, I think I'm good. So for season two, the budget grows. Okay, they get a sound stage and so much more because that first season they were in a hotel room. Okay, there's in a hotel room. The girls was in a suite. They was pasting it all together, making it happen. But now they got the budgets, they got the means, and then we start to move into some of our season two girls. And enter Shandy, okay? And for Shandy, it was from Walgreens to America's Next Top Model, from Ugly Duckling to Swan. But you can see Shandy was very thin. She had the glasses, but all the makings of a model, thin is what they wanted, even though that was what Tyra said she did not want. But baby, we get into it because Janice's comments were, triggering Tyra, some of the things that she was saying about the girls' weight or the girls' appearances. So Jay Manuel decided, I guess, this season to be her mouthpiece. And I know he's regretting that because, like I said, Janice was aggressive, Janice was harsh and all the things. And this is the season when we get Nigel Barker as a judge and a photographer to kind of balance out Janice because Janice was too much, okay? Even too much for Tyra. We get to balance out. And I know the Jays were saying, because Mr. and Mrs. J, part of the community, but they wanted a straight white man that's giving eye candy. I probably would have been a little offended too, but that's what they wanted to do. So that's what they got. Again, we're putting together a show. We want certain things for the show. So we kind of get into, some of the girls had a rough background like Shandy. And I said, this is where we start an exploitation of these girls and leaning into the storyline, no matter how much it's going to hurt them. So they were asking Shandy if she wanted to, make it till the end. And she said, yeah, until what happened in Milan. So they go to Milan. They're, I think, doing go-sees. They got the guys on the mopeds, driving them around. So one night, the producer suggests that, like, why don't they have the guys come on over to where the girls are staying, have a little wine, hang out. They agree to it. And then Shandy gets, I'm going to say this and hopefully I don't get tagged for it. She gets assaulted. That's essentially what happened. And they go to Tyra, and then that's where we roll into episode 2, which was titled Still in the Running. So now Shandy says she was blacked out for the most part. And the next day she cried and cried because nobody stopped it. Tyra says, it's hard to speak on production because, passing the buck, the accountability was lacking. She's like, she don't do production. She don't do the storylines. That was on them. Ken's like, it's a documentary. So the ladies knew we were going to be filming everything documentary style. And I guess at no point they wanted to break the fourth wall and help this poor girl, which is kind of disgusting. Where's the morals? Where's the values? Where is the humanity? Jay Manuel says, they were off, but also that they can't film once you go into the bathroom solo. But because she was in the bathroom with I'm going to call him gentleman, with the man, they went in with her, and I was like, absolutely yikes. Absolutely yikes. I'm sorry, y'all. Give me a second. I'm like, what does this note say? Because I was tip typing as I was watching, y'all. Ooh, baby. So on this show, it seems that everybody's worried about this young girl, maybe 21, cheating on her boyfriend, but we get a Black journalist is giving her perspective now as an adult. We see Tyra come in. Tyra don't handle it right. Tyra's talking to her about, when her man cheated on her, and did you cheat, girl? And I was like, what? And she just focused on the cheating. I'm like, at no point, and I get maybe at this time, they didn't want to take accountability, being legally responsible. Totally wrong. I'm not saying that was right for her being assaulted. So Shandy, she want to go home, and they didn't want to give her a phone. So finally, when she puts her foot down about wanting to go home, they finally let her call her boyfriend. But now they're like, they got to tape it, right? So she tells the boyfriend that she cheated. This boyfriend call her everything but a child of God. Okay, they type in taping her talking. You can hear his response. The girl is crying. She is a face full of tears on the floor. I remember this vividly, and it was horrible and hard to watch. I know some people, made fun of it and everything. And I mean, hindsight is 2020. I don't think that they were fully aware of what was going on at the moment. And Ken and Tyra, because we start talking about, is it the FCC child? Because we did Justin Timberlake and Janet, and how they had to actually scale back and they didn't show us everything. And this whole thing was disgusting to me. This was as a woman, as a mother, just okay. I This is where I start to lose my stuff. Okay, I start to lose my shit. It was more than a thug tear shed for her because what I saw. Okay, and this wasn't, again, 2003. I was in my early 20s, so this wasn't even a matter of perspective or me not understanding what was going on. This is what you showed us. I think the episode was even titled like "The Girl Who Cheated" or something like that. That's how you presented it, and not that this girl was assaulted. I Y'all, let me get down in the comments and let me know how y'all felt when you saw this, because this was one of the things. There was at least a good two, three, maybe four things, and these three things that really, hit me and kind of shook me. The Ebony thing hit close to home, being a dark skinned girl, but to them that's light work. This is absolutely insane. Okay. And I'm saying light work as to what their opinion is, not what my opinion is, because baby, I haven't lived it. Okay. So they get I think I forgot what the lady's name was. Dawn, I can't remember, over at UPN suggests let's go from one cycle a season to two cycles. So we're gonna get two cycles, and other countries start picking a show up and doing their own type model. We got Africa and all other kinds of places that are doing it. It's really, really picking up steam. And then, baby, hold on. It's picking up so much steam that they're having an audition, I think, in New York City. I think it was at Macy's, I believe. And maybe, okay, I'm not hop skipping a jump away from New York City. If you've ever been to New York City, you can see, as soon as I seen all them people, I'm like, that's about to not be safe. And sure enough, it turns into a mob scene, um and a whole behind riot. And I'm like, to me it's crazy, but what are they thinking? How can we make it bigger? It just, again, all the humanity, all the purpose of the show is going out the window. They are talking about the different shoots they did. Baby, I remember that meat photo shoot was god awful. Like, and I eat meats because I remember the one girl. Let me see. Do I have her picture next? I do. Whitney. Whitney was like, she was a vegan, and they just, had her in the meats, had everybody in the meats. It was totally gross. They had a shoot where they were unhoused, and they had actual unhoused people there. It just, maybe it took off and it went to something else. So we enter our girl Danielle, and maybe to say Danny Evans, and she say, don't call her Danny, okay? She is Danielle now. Danielle Evans from Little Rock. She is in cycle 6, as we see here. Now, baby, she's got the gap, okay? She's got the gap. Not so much now. And also that season we had Joni. Joni came in the same season. So they send the ladies to the dentist, if you can recall. And Joni, she did want to get rid of her snaggletooth. But baby, what? The fact that, I mean, we had already seen a Brazilian on TV, which was TMI, okay? Now we've seen this lady get dental work. It's very personal and private, and it's very grotesque, okay? We see this lady getting her teeth snatched out. It just was a lot to watch. I remember that at the time when they showed it, I was like, ooh, 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 keep that to yourself. And they did all of that only to not fix the actual problem. So the lady said to this day, she still got problems. And basically what they did was purely cosmetic. Now Danielle stood on that. She ain't ever want to fix that gap. She didn't want to close it, and I really remember that. And Tyra pissed me off because we had Lauren Hunton, who was a white woman with a gap that was way before Tyra, okay? So there's no reason that she couldn't have got work with that gap. Danielle knew it, Tyra knew it, but she was saying that she was getting pushback, I think was her explanation. And she didn't want to do it, but she finally did close that gap. I'll say some. I don't think it was fully closed, but she closed it largely. And there was pressure because Tyra was like, basically, you're going to close it, you're going to go home. She even called her mama. Her mama was like, well, I'll be here waiting for you when you get home. If you don't want to do it, you decide to do it. She's like, if you don't do it, you come home. And mama basically said she was going to support her either way. But it was just crazy. And then even after that, they talked about some seasons later, which I remember this too. I don't know when I stopped watching Child, but I remember this too. There was a white woman and they made her gap bigger. And that straight on pissed me off because this was too much. This was too much to do on TV on the strength of some modeling stuff. Entirely too much. But then to turn around, and this is where I start to say, Tyra's not a girl's girl. Tyra don't ride for the blacks because why are you putting these black women, Shandy aside, because at this point, Shandy is still up there for the trauma, through so much bullcrap. So Tyra says she apologized, but she, like I said, she was getting pushed back from the agents. Danielle says that's BS, child. That she was creating a show. Baby, absolutely. Absolutely. Then they just show like numerous ladies being, putting their health in danger because they had to be thin. They're not eating. They're getting hypothermia, all kinds of crazy stuff. Then we get to, I forget what cycle it is. I think it's cycle 8. Cycle 8, they portray a fake crime scene photo. And Dion, who was one of the girls, she had to do that pure violence, okay? And her mom had been shot and paralyzed, which I thought was crazy. And they knew that. And I think she said at the time she thought it was a coincidence, but now she knows that that wasn't the case and that they were trying to get, some type of rise out of her. They did a race swap photo shoot, not once but twice, baby. And Jay Manuel was trying to put his foot down with that one. Well, not so necessarily put his foot down, but he asked to be excused because he's South African, apartheid, all the things, baby. Everybody thought, myself included, that Jay Manuel, because the Manuel is given Latino, okay? Because of his upbringing, but alas, Tyra pushes, he stays, he does it. And she feels like she didn't find it controversial. Okay. She just thought we were representing black as beautiful, but they're not, anyway. And when it airs, it gets all type of controversy. Like I said, only for her to turn around and do it 9 cycles later. Tyra now understands why it's a problem. This is what she's saying now. Okay. Whether you believe it or not, if you saw Tyra's face, whether you believe it or not, it's up to you because baby, absolutely not. And the problematicness with the black girls continues. With our beautiful girl, Kenya, from cycle 4. Now, she said growing up, she had been made fun of for being thin, but now it's a problem. And it's a problem because what she considered thin, they consider thick. So they do a 7 deadly photo shoot, and she is gluttony. Are we picking on the girls or no? This is what I'm saying to you. It's too much. Then fast forward, we're in Africa. Tyra is saying that she had to retouch, the stomach. Janice is saying she needs to lose weight. And the ladies are saying she's gained 10 pounds. And baby, I was mortified, okay? I was mortified, okay? Meanwhile, Tyra has a talk show. She's being criticized for her own weight gain. And she said, you can kiss my black ass. And this is why she started America's Next Top Model. But then she's kind of still criticizing the girls for their weight. So I was like, baby, and there's girls with eating disorders on the show. People are in the comments, because we're getting comments from online are saying how when they saw the show, they were triggered. I said, baby, listen. Then I think we had, was it Whitney? And Whitney was from, I don't remember what cycle Whitney was from. Let me see if I can find Whitney. Okay, Whitney was from cycle 10. Now here, Whitney is giving plush madame. Okay, beautiful. Okay, nothing wrong with it. As a black woman, I don't see nothing wrong with a little extra, pushing for the cushion. But Whitney says when she started, she was a size 6 and considered like heavy, plus size. They had nothing to fit her because sample size was a size 2, baby. I could never. Okay, I don't think I was a 2. Let me not say I don't think I was ever a 2, but baby, okay. And she had some of the same problems as Takara in a previous season, and she see where that got Takara, so she kind of took a back seat to arguing or whatever. Because I think Takara complained that was when she had to wear that orange jumpsuit looking thing, and she was like, "Y'all not gonna make me feel bad." And y'all don't have nothing to fit me. It was a thing, baby. Okay, Takara is beautiful. Okay, like I said, Erin is triggered folks. And I think she said she was like 5'10", 115 pounds, baby. And that's a size 6. Okay, I was less than 115 in high school. Because I gained that freshman 15 in college, baby. Okay. And I was happy to have that freshman 15 because your girl's like 5'5". So 5'5", 115 pounds at 5'10" is crazy. But, modeling, we going to talk about it. So then again, our girl Kenya, we picking on poor Kenya. And, everybody's trying to make a name for themselves, make a weight on this show. We're doing a photo shoot. I forgot what we were, but we got a male model, Bertini, okay? And he is being aggressive with the flirting. And by the time they get to the photo shoot, this was prior to the photo shoot. By the time they get to the photo shoot with the men in the background, they're supposed to be, moving and grooving, dancing, having a good time. He is touching on her and moaning and groaning. She is feeling uncomfortable. It's also given, not as bad as Shandy, but at what point do we stand up for what's right and call a thing a thing? So she says, what would Tyra do? So she stops to shoot and speaks out, and they did nothing. It kind of was like, even Nigel was like, ma'am, we need to get this done. I think it was Nigel. We need to get this done. So, yeah, like keep it pushed. Baby, it was crazy. She gets to the judging table, baby. They dismiss her concerns. When her photo is, her photo wasn't good. And we see the photo in current time, the man is like literally got his hands on her thighs. And I'm like, it was disgusting. It was another thing that was disgusting to watch. This was like, at this point, we on Ebony, Shani, Danielle, Kenya. This is 4 strikes. We already out, but we still rolling because we ain't got to episode 3, baby. Stay with me. So, Tyra is telling her, you gotta tell him to like back up in a flirty way. Like, boy, you better stop. And da-da-da-da. And I'm like, she's thinking she's empowering her, but she's saying, now she understands and apologizes. Again, that's not what it's giving. Tyra is giving us very performative in her responses. It's giving PR training, but not really. Did you have a couple of little sips or something? Let me not allege that, baby. But it just, Tyra, not it, girl, not it. If you were going to come on this show, especially to do what you did later on, where is the accountability? The true accountability, not just giving us what you think we want to hear so that we can have a better opinion of you, because we don't. So, they were supposed to be changing the industry, and it looks like, in my opinion, these are my words, that they ended up conforming to it. We up in the ante again. The more popularity the show gains, the more money, the more BS. And at some point, Jay Manuel wants to leave, and this is where we get into episode 3. Okay, episode 3 is rooting for you, so we about to almost end up where we started off, because that was the top of the video, chat. The top of the video. So they asked Tyra for her toughest moment. She's having a hard time picking it, which is crazy that you didn't say nothing about Shandy. You didn't say nothing about, Danielle. You didn't say, we get to our girl Tiffany. Now, I don't think I have a picture of Tiffany. Let me just double check. I do not. So we're just going to go with the OG photo. You see Miss J's face? This is my face. We do not, because Tiffany was not in the docuseries, which I can totally understand. And she had a couple of things to say online in regards to Miss Tyra Banks. If you want to see them, you can go over online, Shade Room, any of those things. Tiffany Richardson, I believe is her name. You can go to her page and see what she had to say about what's going to unfold. So she was like, yeah, I guess we could say it's Tiffany. So Tiffany, I think, was on cycle 1, got into a fight with a bar, and then they ended up reaching out to her, getting her help for anger management, and she returns for cycle 4, I believe, right? So we get to this scene where I was rooting for you, and baby, the way, and my friend had said, like, that was when she kind of checked out, which is kind of early for me, because like I said, it was cycle 4, because of the way she yelled at her, and I kind of had to rewatch it to get where she was coming from, because we, baby, we in the blacks, we jokes all day. Okay, so I was rooting for you is a thing. Okay, it's a meme, it's a thing, we say it. Same thing is, he's a good man, Savannah. Now, we know when the mama said he's a good man, Savannah, that he indeed was not a good man, and people get really bothered when we said it. Do you know he's not a good man? Yes, we know. And I was rooting for you when indeed, Tyra, were you really though? Some people thought it was authentic. Some people thought it was giving Black Mama or whatever you want to say. I was not moved in the way she wanted us to be moved. So Tiffany is struggling to read the teleprompter, as some of the other girls did, but she don't want to fumble her words, so she kind of gives up and walks away. Um, and Tyra's telling like, if you do this, you're gonna go home. Tyra, every time she said that, just the hairs on the back of my neck. Same thing with Danielle and the Gab. You want to go home? You go, baby, don't threaten me. Okay, don't threaten me. Either I is or I ain't. Okay, ain't nothing you can say that's gonna change it. So that night, Tyra ends up sending her. That was, I think they said, the first time Tyra sent two girls home because the person I have in my hand, right, is blank. Tiffany going home. Other girl, I can't even remember who she was, is going home. So Tiffany is like, talking to the girls in the back. She's giving them hugs. Oh, don't cry for me, baby. This was sending Miss Tyra off. Okay, she's like, baby, step to the front one more time. Let me holler at you. So this is when she starts telling us she's disappointed. And baby, she runs down her business. And when she started to run down her business, I knew Tyra didn't mean her no good. She was like, you got anger management to come back here. Your grandmama was almost put out, or y'all lights got cut off, something to that effect. I can't remember exactly what the words were. Just to buy you a bathing suit for this competition. Tyra, really? That's what you want to say to me? That's supposed to be you riding for me and you encouraging me and you really feeling for me. So she's telling her business. At this point, I'm not feeling it. So Tiffany's like, listen, I'm hurt, but essentially she can't cry another tear. And Tyra keeps going and going. Tiffany speaks up, and then Tyra yells at her. She's like, stop talking. I never yelled at a girl like this in my life. Baby, y'all know the speech. I was rooting for you. How dare you? Baby, I think it was Nigel's face. You could see these people were like viscerally like, what she was saying wasn't what she was supposed to be saying. The panel is shocked. And they were saying that after that, they had to basically pull Tyra out of there. And now, in hindsight, she admits that she went too far. Jay Manuel says there were way worse things that she said that we didn't hear. And like I said, the way she was talking about that girl's business and what her mama done been through and everything. And I think what she's saying now is that she says some horrific things about her and her son, because she tried to take up for Tyra at first, and then she was like, doubled back and was like, nah, that's not love. You don't talk to me like that, because she's trying to keep it cute. But she says some things about her son. Jay Manuel didn't even want to repeat what she says. And I'm just like, that's crazy. And I think the son since is no longer with us. And he made it to 23 because this was many years ago. But now the son is no longer with us. So baby, just it hits different. And then they said, I think it was, oh God, I can't think of the guy's name, but that the panel had lawyers the next week. I said, she was going up. She was saying some stuff that she's not supposed to be saying to have lawyers. So like I said, Tiffany initially said that she loved her, but now she's saying it's bull, that you don't humiliate somebody that you love. Indeed. So by cycle 8, Jay Manuel had enough. He felt the show didn't really reflect him, the direction he was going in. He wasn't feeling it, and he wasn't speaking up when he disagreed with things, and that was affecting him. So he said, he knew it was time to go. He was stressed. He took a vacation for a week. Well, he emailed Tyra. Tyra didn't respond for 3 days, baby, and then only responded with 3 words. I am disappointed. That's all she says. That's when he went on vacation for like a week. His lawyers reached out to him saying that, they didn't want him to leave this way. The show didn't want him to leave this way, that he needed to do one more season. Essentially, if he didn't do one more season, he was going to be blackballed. So he agrees now. Where I'm kind of off this with is, you wanted to leave and then proceeded to stay past that one season for another 7 or 8 seasons until the point where you get let go. I don't know about that one, but at least what I got from Miss J, Mr. J, and Nigel, whereas they didn't really take accountability that much either. There was some accountability. There was some, form of being apologetic. There was a little bit of growth. They seemed a little more human with some of the things than Tyra did, and it could be because of how their fate ended up in regards to the show. So Mr. J, he don't hear from Tyra. They get back on the set. He's like, okay, this is an opportunity to speak to Tyra. He go to speak to Tyra. Tyra don't speak, okay? Tyra is only speaking when they're filming, speak when you're spoken to. Other than that, she don't have no words for him. And I'm like, okay. So they asked Tyra about it now. She don't want to speak on it. That's word she should have for him. But I'm like, Tyra, that was how many years ago? Like, you ain't spoke to that man all this time. You're full of shit. So he says, at this point, he's really just, making the announcements. He ain't doing too much of the creative thing. They picking bad pictures because they wanted the story over the shots, and just starts to get crazy. And, he says sometimes there was better shots. It was a whole thing, baby. And then he tells us, this is where we find out that I was like, that's crazy, that once you're eliminated, you still have to stay in a hotel. And they basically discard you. You get eliminated, you go stay in a hotel, you can't call nobody, you can't talk to nobody until the show is wrapped because of confidentiality reasons. I said, oh my God. And then we find out, like, after the show, a lot of girls went nowhere in regards to modeling. I'm saying in regards to modeling, not saying that they do anything with their life, but here we are. So it's kind of like they were saying that they were like the OG influencers, and Tyra feels that she blazed the trail for these women. And I, Tyra, has a illustrious career. We'll say that. We'll say she meant well initially, but go off shiz. So Whitney says she was the first plus size model. And when she got the contract, that they didn't even have a plus size division. Like, these are all the things that they're going through. Danielle says she won. She moved to New York. Baby, let me get Danielle back up here for us, because I love me some Danielle. She is beautiful, okay? Danielle says she gets to New York. She's staying in a modeling apartment. She went to the agency. They were very cold with her, but she was like the black sheep. It was fashion week, no nothing, no castings, no booking for months and months and months. And then I think she stayed with Chanel Iman, who kind of asked what was going on with her. Ooh, excuse me. And comes to find out that, she essentially was viewed as a reality star and not a real model. And designers didn't want her to pull the attention from the pieces. So they were really booking her for things. And baby, that's crazy. Now, she did say to her brother, who kind of encouraged her to go on the show, that they just humiliate the girls, and that's not really what they do. But I think, she thought once she won, she was going to go somewhere, and she didn't. So years later, she says Tyra reached out to her, and she said that she knew that there were doors that were closed, that she couldn't get into her, and Tyra did nothing. And baby, Danielle is still pissed to this day. You can see in this documentary that she is still pissed. And baby, you might need a little bit of therapy. I mean, I was with you. I feel you, but also, have to let it go just a little bit. Or maybe, it just, she was in her feelings, she was in her emotions, she was getting it all out while we were doing this docuseries. So it's kind of like they built their empire on these girls' back, and then these girls didn't get anywhere modeling wise again. So Shani says, let me pull up Shani real quick. Or Shandy, child. I've been calling her Shandy. This thing says Shandy. Shandy. Okay, Shandy gets invited because, Miss Tyra got a talk show. She gets invited to the talk show. It's like an America's Next Top Model reunion. She says she ain't seen the scene in Milan. She don't want to see the scene in Milan. She asked her not to play it. Tyra plays it anyway. She ain't looking after they come back. She's like, I noticed you didn't watch. Tyra, you was a low down, dirty son of a gun, okay? Piss me off. The boyfriend tried to stay with her, but it was just really tough for them. They would be walking through the streets. They calling this lady everything but a child of God. And so they couldn't make it. And homegirl ended up back at Walgreens. I said, doggone. So Dawn from UPN/CW at this point, she leaves. We enter Mark. Tyra keeps getting these phone calls. And the show is as big as, but it won't always be. And that is taking a dip. And that they had to trim the fat, essentially. The ratings were, kind of whatever. And they're shocked because she's got to get rid of Mr. and Mrs. J and Nigel. So they're all shocked because shit, to me, they were the show. And I think after that, we kind of got to see that there was no show with him. So Jay Manuel wanted to leave, but he worked, like I said, from season 10 to season 18 anyway, until he got let go. Now that part I understand, and you can get down in the comments and tell me your feelings. So they were supposed to, issue a press release, and they all got an individual statements, but it got leaked to Page 6, okay, that they were fired. And Jay Jay Manuel says it was no leak, okay, which was crazy, okay, which means I don't think it was Ken, but either Tyra or somebody from the the higher ups leaked it because they said ain't nothing in America's Next Top Model history ever been leaked. All of a sudden, here we are. So Nigel said after 17 seasons, he didn't have no backup. So the three, they go on a talk show together, and the reporters, insinuating that Tyra's hard to work with, and they got to be careful legally. So Jay Manuel was like, "Oh, I'm a perfectionist too, and that's why we, initially connected." He kept it cute. And Tyra now, it's hard news to deliver, and they felt like it was her. So baby, cycle 19, I think they did 5, 7, and under. The ratings is starting to slip because once they left, I think the ratings went down 54% or something like that. They did an all-star with celebrity mentors. They was grasping at straws at this point. The network decided that they didn't want Tyra to host. I said, Not they took your own show with you, and we get Rita Ora, and then finally America's Next Top Model ends after 24 cycles. So Nigel goes on. He continues to do edgy photo shoots, like for Taylor Swift. He works at Miss USA, Miss Universe. Jay Manuel, he gets a job with E. He writes a book. He has a cosmetic line. So they all did continue to go on and thrive, which I'm grateful for them. Miss J did top model, I think, for Russia, China. He was with SCAD for 15 years. And then in 2020, because the whole time, like in the show, he was very, talkative. And here you can tell, and I heard this before I actually got to watch the docuseries, and you can hear his voice is like, hoarse. It's, he had a stroke in 2022. 2022. Keep that in your memory bank. He's in a coma for 5 weeks. He couldn't talk or walk. The man who taught people how to talk, he said, can no longer walk for now. So Jay Manuel goes to visit. Nigel goes to visit him in the hospital. And like I said, he says the one who taught him to talk taught him to walk can't walk right now. But he's optimistic that he will walk again. And I am too. Okay. So they take them a little selfie, which is really, really cute. Love them being supportive for him. And baby, Tyra says she want to do a cycle 25, or she says she's going to do a cycle 25. Please don't support that, y'all. Please, I get it, but it just, the tone deafness of it all. We get they took your show away from you, but ma'am, please. She says she's going to do better after being called out on her ish. And you just make sure when you're called out on your ish that you're as gracious and, as she is. Tyra, please. So we get kind of the where are they now going into the credits. Danny got the keys to the city in Little Rock, Arkansas. Dion is a small business owner and a realtor. Ebony is an actress, baby. Okay. I can't remember her name. Did a home improvement show. Giselle was in real estate, hated it. And then she went into theater. One of the other girls bought an ice cream shop. Bree works with the with offenders. Shani takes care of animals in Kenya. Is a pose coach. Okay, work at Kenya. My whole thing, and I know this has been long, and I appreciate you if y'all stayed with me this long. I really, really. A lot of this stuff was just hard to watch, and to have Tyra sit there with a lack of accountability, a lack of empathy, no true emotion, and really just giving us performative. It didn't sit well with me. That's why they dragging her all back and forth and up and down the social media streets as they should. I should have made this alive for as long as this thing and let y'all participate, but then we probably would have been here for 2 hours, y'all. And like I said, the intention went out the window once it blew up. That's my opinion. You let me know if you agree. And at some point, we're just doing it for clout or doing it for, I don't even know what we're doing it for, because you were the Tyra Banks. So did you need clout? No. And that whole, it was a different time. It's not going to work for me. I get that I was a modeling industry and the modeling industry was rough and harsh, but you were supposed to be something different. Again, the intention went out the window. You weren't supposed to do what everybody did. Yes, have them prepared. And also you were supposed to have different sizes and different shapes. And you just kind of went and fell back into all the things. And again, the different times is not going to work for me because right is right and wrong is wrong. That girl getting assaulted, those were the times. Absolutely not. And I get we had the Me Too movement, but it was still wrong then. Okay. It's just given Tyra's not a girl's girl. It's given, the black girls got done dirty. That's not to say, because our girl Shandy got done the worst that we know of. But I just, the black girls, the colorism, all the other things that you put them through, totally, totally unnecessary. I'm not going to apologize for the length of this no more, y'all. It is what it is. I just got to get it off my chest at this point. Because even though we didn't learn much that we didn't know, the biggest thing for me was the Shandy thing. A lot of all this other stuff I already knew, but I just want to communicate it with you, share. I haven't done a Yikes in a long time, so I said, let me be thorough and get into it, break it on down. I mean, next time I'm going to try to be a little long, because 50 minutes is kind of crazy. I was, okay. And I said, what about Kenya Barris, Tyra Banks' friend that did the first, was it 10 cycles? I can't remember. His name was absent from this whole thing. Where does his accountability lie? Because Tyra is not solely to blame. She is to blame. It is her show. She has to take accountability for it. But there's also a lot of others to blame. Okay? Ken Mock and all them was up there, but there's a lot of blame to spread around. You guys get down in the comments and let me know what you thought of it. If you want more Top Model, I may do another Yikes on this one too. Coming on, I believe, March 11th on E, we get Dirty Rotten Scandals, where we are going to get into America's Top Model yet again. Now, this one, Raggedy Janice Dickinson is over there, but it's a couple of people that weren't on. Some of the people that were on that one are going to be on this one, but I don't think we get no Tyra, okay, because I want a more, in your face, hard hitting. So we get some people that were on this one and some people that weren't. So if you're interested in that, please go on over there, check it out. In March, like I said, I may, you never know. I may be back. If it's that good to talk about it. Other than that, I appreciate you guys sticking with me for the duration of this very lengthy video. Okay. And I hope to see you guys in the next one. Peace, y'all.